Greetings and blessings, everyone. This is James Thomas along with James Russell of
Greetings.
FNQ Spiritual Group, and this is our podcast, episode number 1. Our podcasts are going to be designed around spiritual topics and information that is designed to assist people on their pathway. So today we thought we'd start somewhere that a lot of people tend to be interested in, and that's past lives.
Interesting topic. I might say so myself.
How many
Um,
past lives have you recalled for yourself?
Somewhere under around about the 10 mark. And most of it is not, let's say, good. It's actually quite bad. Like most of it I've recalled a lot of some of the deaths that have happened. So,
So, like in wars or
there's been one of war. There was an incident in, I think it was. Hold on, I've got to remember this correctly. It was in England and possibly in London. And I got basically bashed to death, and I was drunk, so I didn't feel it.
well,
So
that's a
there's
good thing anyway.
Yeah, so there's been a war, and there's been I think there was another one in France where I was hung. That's not a good time. you know.
Well, I've remembered a number of my incarnations. Probably the one lifetime that I've had that I would say is a lifetime that was off. Like I wasn't like full on service and things of this nature, was in Ireland.
Mm.
And I was a fisherman and I had 6 children. And it was all strangely enough, all the kids survived. None of them died early or anything, and it was just a really good, wholesome, loving life. Hard work and everything, but then there have been those lifetimes that I've remembered. I've got maybe 2 or 3 that I could say were actually famous, but I don't really talk about them for a very simple reason. And I think this is one thing that a lot of people need to be aware of. Before I get into that, I wanted to mention I met a woman once who lived in Northern California, and it was the strangest thing because when you went to her house, she had all of this Egyptian stuff, and she would proudly proclaim that in a previous lifetime she was an Egyptian princess.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, you're not an Egyptian or a princess in this lifetime, but she
No.
was trying to recreate it.
Yeah.
It's almost like people tend to get really involved in trying to find out about past lives because they don't like their current life or there's things about their current life that they think isn't so great. So it's almost like the mindset of the grass is always greener.
Yeah, but when you actually, if you go back into and remember some of those lives, some of them would be like fantastic. Others would be absolutely dreadful. You've got a spectrum of um, lifetimes that you've done things to others and had things done to you in those lifetimes. And it's not about these lifetimes have are done and dusted. There's no point trying to recreate them in this particular life because you're not going to get the same effect that you had
Well,
back then.
but you see, it's actually more than that. One thing that I've learned through this journey, you don't actually, I'll just put it into human terms, you don't actually die until you're done.
Hmm.
So in the lifetimes that I've lived, I was complete in that lifetime before I left. So it's like there's two or three lifetimes that where I could say that I was famous or known even till today. But it's like, and I had finished what I needed to do in that lifetime. That lifetime is over with. It has nothing to do with who I am in this life.
Yeah. And it's the same. It's the same with me. I, you know, I can't. It's like there's no reason for me to recreate any past lives because it doesn't suit what I'm currently doing in this life. It would just it would just have a counter effect, I guess, would be the right way of saying.
Well, I think the other aspect of it is we have to realize and understand that we have been given whatever we've needed for this incarnation.
Mhm.
It is very likely that what we have in this incarnation would be very different from a different incarnation because we would have needed other things in those incarnations. The other thing to remember about an incarnation is you get together with your team of guides, advisors, whatever, to determine everything about your incarnation. If there's something special, like a mission you need to do, or certain energies that need to be balanced or taken care of, whatever the case may be. And then it's like you're given three options for parents. So in this incarnation, the parents that I had to choose from, there was one set of parents in Portland, Maine, in the northeastern part of the US. There was another set of parents in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the north central, and the third was in Los Angeles. Now, I don't know why, but I chose the ones in Los Angeles. Now, the reason that they were all chosen, or the reason that they were options, is because they would have given me what I needed for my incarnation. Now, as someone who does past life readings, I tell clients all the time, I say, there are one of two reasons why you look at past lives: A, for entertainment, or B, because there's something going on in your life now that relates to a past life.
And it's true because when I've discovered some of my past lives, I've gone through uh, similar experiences here, which related back to uh, past lives. So it was a karmic balancing type ish scenario when I've gone through these things with individuals as well. So it does catch up with you on that thing. But I tend not to want to know about my past lives. But there are times where it's like, yep, you're going to have to know about this.
Well, now, see, like the lifetimes that I've remembered, for the most part, are lifetimes that are indicators for what I need to know in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's what drew me to doing or creating Akashic Records readings. And I know other people have their own way of doing those. but mine is basically geared around providing someone with the information that they require to assist them on their path. You know, their phraseology that a lot of starseeds use is, I want to be of service. I want to help people. But for me, it's like, I'm here to be of service. My whole thing is to assist people to walk the path that they are here for. And that is our focus at the FNQ spiritual group.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And admittedly, I've probably been one of your most stubborn people that you've had to, let's say, kick my ass a few times to get me on the right track.
Oh, numerous times, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
But even without diving into my past lives, it's fully into my past lives and remembering who I was at certain times. You get I've what I call a bleed through, and it's memories that have happened, and I'm seeing them through the same set of eyes that I had back then. And it's fascinating to not physically feel the things that were happening, but physically feel the emotions at that time that I was feeling. And, you know, it's an interesting concept. It's an interesting thing when you do find yourself remembering on your own, um, because you can't really know whether it is true or whether it's not until you discern.
Well, I think that's where a lot of people get screwed up. You know, they have not really focused enough on their discernment, so they have this tendency to say, oh, well, they're more knowledgeable than I am, so whatever they say, I'm going to believe. And it's like, I think one thing that screws people up on that is spirit's really good at like testing you to see if you're actually discerning or not.
Yes, because the information that comes through with your past lives, I feel there's lessons that you may need to learn, or the knowledge that comes from that scenario that you're working through. Um, with them, it does. You do need to discern it and make sure it's the correct information that you need at that specific moment in time.
Oh, totally. You know, it's like, it's fun discovering who you were in a past life. But at the same time, it's like it can also be discouraging. It can be disturbing as well because it's like, what happens if you discover that you were a mass murderer in a previous incarnation?
Well, yeah, that's true.
Because it did, you know, the path of the spiritual path is about balance. So we've had incarnations of light and of darkness.
Mhm. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I know of one specific lifetime where um, people view it as betrayal, and it's really not. It really wasn't.
No, it
Uh,
wasn't. I know the lifetime you're referring
you
to.
know the lifetime I'm referring to,
Yes, I
because
do.
it was pretty much pretty much the same lifetime. You were there, and it wasn't a betrayal as in the way people now people these days view it because it is a famous lifetime, and it is an awkward one to actually remember because of it being so famous. And it's just, for me, it's awkward. But the thing behind it was, it's like you have to do things in your life so that you are not going to understand the reasoning behind at those times, but it is done, and it will be awkward. In reflection, it was yeah, it's an awkward situation to be put in to get a job done, that had to be done, basically.
Well, it's very disconcerting when you realize that you're being asked to do things that is going to end up being very disconcerting on so many levels. And yet at the same time, the things that needed to happen would never have happened otherwise.
Well, that's exactly right. But it's the same when, if you get these situations and you do feel like you are, um, and you do feel like you uh, are yeah, you do feel like you shouldn't be doing these things, but at the end of the day, you do them because you have to do them, sort of thing.
Well,
To get the right thing, I think to get the correct thing going and what needs to happen.
and
So
the other thing to remember is that just because we do something doesn't necessarily mean we're going to understand why we're having to do it. To give you a perfect example of that, in 2021, I had a stroke. Now, I certainly did not realize or understand why it was so important for me to have a stroke. Seemed kind of pointless and stupid, in my opinion.
wow, yeah.
But then I found out that, truth be told, they came to me before I incarnated and told me that I was going to experience this and go through it. So it's like, do I then just say, well, it's not fair and I'm not going to play anymore? Or do you realize that there's more going on than meets the eye? And the most important tool that we have in truth is brain fart.
I
The
was going to
most
say it's either
important the most
discernment,
important tool is discernment.
and it is. It's got to be done. Um, no matter how much you view like this life in parallels to this life and in your past lives, the discernment needs to happen so you're getting the benefit of your past life without actually going through what you went through then.
Correct. So you have to ask yourself what's most important when looking at past lives. You do it for entertainment or see how if there's some past lives that are affecting your current incarnation.
Hmm.
I think this is a good place to stop. Now, if there is a particular topic that you would like for us to discuss and to consider, or if you'd like to join us on the podcast at some point, shoot us an email at fnqsg7@gmail.com. Much love and many blessings. Koto koroto mate karata mate.
E poto kore se se korondo he atais.